Yo, what's happening, people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. And welcome back to, I guess, Chelsea news. What is Chelsea news? Well, it's the daily series here on this channel where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea or what's happening with Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it, more importantly, asking for yours. A reflection a little bit on yesterday's game with stuff like the Wesley Fofana injury, Aubameyang being our number 9, the Ruben remontada in midfield, and Trev Chalobah, what we do next, etc. Lots of stuff to get into and talk about today, so thanks for joining me. Consider slamming a like, dropping a like. What do they say? Oh, smashing a like. That's what the Utes used to say here on YouTube. Smashing the like button. You're welcome to subscribe, and should you choose to do so, please hit that sweet, sweet bell, baby. Oh, it's not a bad one. This video is brought to you by SPITCH. Football is back and in full frantic force, ladies and gentlemen. So, fantasy football's all over the gaff, and SPITCH is a wonderful and fun and exciting fantasy football because you don't have to commit to the entire season. You can dip in and out when you want, and you get rewarded for your football knowledge via a OptaStats-driven engine on SPITCH, so it actually is more rewarding, essentially, when you make right calls with certain players. It's free to play, but it's 18 plus, because you can wager money and win dem peas if you fancy it. Do go check out SPITCH now by clicking the link in the top of the description. Oh yeah. Right, back in the studio at Stamford Bridge. First off, I do want to reflect on the Wesley Fofana injury. Of course, really frustrating. He scored an important goal in the Champions League win and the 3-0 win against Milan last night. Really important goal, actually, the opener, and probably set the tone and what happened next in the game. So it can't be understated of how important that goal is. He'd looked much better. Of course, he made an early mistake against Crystal Palace. Not an error that directly led to the goal, but sort of earlier in the phase of play. And then, Graham Potter put an arm around him, did his managerial thing, calmed him down, and he ended up having a really good game. Why do I look so friggin' pale, man? Look how pale I look. I look like some sort of, dark elf from a video game. Level 100 wizard. Anyway, Wesley Fofana. Yes, he was pictured by Nizar Kinsella, of course, the journalist for the Evening Standard, leaving Stamford Bridge yesterday on crutches. But many are speculating that it's not necessary, or we're hoping, touch wood, that it's not that a serious injury. Because, of course, I think Cy Phillips stated on Give Me Sport that, of course, he did try and play on for a couple of minutes, which is always a good sign, because, it's probably not the best thing to do with an injury, but if you think you can try and play on, it means something hasn't gone seriously, you haven't completely done a hammy, or, you haven't done your ACL or Achilles or something, important, and he tried to play on, and then, of course, when he decided it's best not to, that I'm injured here, he walked off the pitch. And, I guess the crutches were precautionary. They just said, look, mate, walk on these until we can get you a scan so we know exactly what's happening. Of course, a scan is happening today. Graham Potter spoke about this as the only negative of the evening, of course. There is no update at time of recording on the severity of the injury, but speculation would make you think that it's hopefully not that bad because of how it went down and because he walked off initially. Now, of course, if we are to play the back three system again, which of course worked so well yesterday, I do think Potter will be tactically versatile. But if we are to play it again, we seemingly have a really good replacement at right centre-back in Trevoh Chalobah, who of course came on for Wes Fofana and looked very good. And again, some people speculate, or some people said in my comment section, that Reece James actually played better when Trev came on, which I don't know if that's true necessarily. I'm sure you guys will make your own minds up about that, but he certainly played well enough, and we can feel safe in the meantime, and Trev can have his opportunity to get back into this side and perform well, which of course he did under Thomas Tuchel. If we don't play a back three, and we do play a back two, or back four, and two centre-backs, then, Koulibaly looked much better. You can do a lot worse, ladies and gentlemen, than a centre-back partnership. Of course, it's quite senior, but a centre-back partnership of Kalidou Koulibaly and, of course, Thiago Silva. They'd sort of... I always talk about the language because it's important to communicate. Of course, they both speak French, so they'll talk to each other well. I mean, if you want to talk about FIFA card ratings in terms of quality, those two are a titanic centre-back partnership. Incredible scenes. I think they're both like 87 or 88 rated on FIFA, certainly was. So very, very exciting indeed if we do have play those two. But if we do play those two, you will need a more defensively resolute midfield. Now, N'Golo Kante will return. He has been training. I thought we might see him off the bench or something, but he didn't feature in the Champions League. Hopefully we see him sooner rather than later. I think he will play I just got a feeling he'll be excellent under Graham Potter. But do you know what? Who was excellent under Graham Potter last night? Ruben Loftus-Cheek, as my friend Joe Tweeds called it on his Twitter, the Ruben Tarda. He does this, Ruben. He sneakily comes back in, plays really well, and like Tuchel said, he's like reluctant to praise him because he comes in with these performances and he wants him to keep it up, and that's the tricky thing. Hopefully it remains understated enough and Ruben can just continue this fine, scintillating form. He was really, really good. He's got the strength in midfield. He's obviously completely different to Jorginho. Jorginho is obviously very slight. He's metronomic. And then Ruben's, he's technical. He's good. He's offensive, but he's strong and can really protect the back four. He's not like your conventional screening CDM or anything, but he offers that athleticism and strength in midfield that we've missed. He looked pretty darn good next to Mateo Kovacic, and I can feel if we do play a back four, play a 4-2-2-2 again, then if you do have a Koulibaly and a Thiago Silva, which doesn't have much pace, let's be real, they have a combined age of like nearly 70. Wait, yeah, something so. So, yeah, you need someone like Ruben in midfield. Of course, you've got, like, tenacity of Gallagher, but he's kind of like a bit more closer to Mason Mount. I do want to talk about Mason Mount a little bit because I've made the mistake of going around social media a little bit and seeing there's, of course, a lot of I know there's always a lot of toxicity on Twitter, man. I mean, it's always largely bullshit, and you should never take it seriously if you want to be a healthy and balanced person. But there is a big, peculiar war. There's a culture war. And it was originally Jorginho and Mason Mount fans, or super stans, who, by the way, Jorginho and Mason Mount haven't been good this season. Until yesterday, I thought Mason Mount was good. I try and be very objective and measured. I do love Mason Mount, of course I do. He's a Cobham graduate. There's gonna be some level of bias towards that, and I'll be absolutely transparent to that, and I want to remain lucid to that. But why not? I'm a Chelsea fan. Our academy's friggin' amazing. Look at yesterday. Who did we have in the academy? We had Reece James. We had Mason Mount. We had Trevor Chalobah. We had Armando Broja. We had Ruben Loftus-Cheek, 5, and and then of course Fikayo Tomori and the other team, 6. So there's a great level of pride in that, and the fact how, there's Mason Mount posted that picture of him and Reece James, and he was like, he's one of our own, talking about Reece James, who of course won man of the match after an incredible performance. And then, Reece James responding, made in Cobham. I want him to do well, but not at the expense of the team, and he'd been poor, and I'd called for him to be dropped in this game. I don't know if you guys remember my pre-match presser that I did, was it the day before yesterday? But I called for him to be dropped because he was poor, but Graham Potter started him, and, egg on my face, Mason Mount was absolutely incredible. Like I said in the post-match presser yesterday, who scored, for whatever that's worth, gave him the highest rating out of the front three, and, that includes Sterling and Aubameyang, who both had a goal involvement. They had a goal and assist, respectively. Mason Mount was incredible, but there is frustration from US men's national team about Pulisic not starting and Mason Mount starting over him. Look, man, there's this recurring theme. The 4 managers, and beyond, because of course he's played his way into that Vitesse team from the bench. They're all these coaches raised Mason Mount, and there's got to be a point where, these fans just go, all right, multiple professional football coaches want to pick Mason Mount. He does something in training, they like it. Even I've just said to you, I've got a bias towards Cobham players. I wanted Mason Mount to be dropped, and Potter played him. He played well. They know better than us often, so he's playing and Pulisic isn't playing and they're upset. Now, I get it, man. If you're an American fan, you're about to play in a World Cup, you've got young and exciting players. He is a very talented player, Pulisic. You want him to start. I understand the frustrations. But if you are, if you're just a USA men's team fan, fair enough, be pissed off. But if you're also a Chelsea fan, Chelsea played a near flawless game yesterday against Milan, the champions of Italy, and that's with Mason Mount playing. I'm not saying Pulisic isn't talented. If you watch my content, and if you've watched my content long term, I have absolutely waxed lyrical at times about Christian Pulisic. In Project Restart, he was inspired before his hamstring injury in the FA Cup final under Lampard. He was superb under Frank Lampard. Frank really liked him, and Mason Mount was his son. And Pulisic was good. He was useful off the bench against Crystal Palace. But he might not be a starter in this team. And something that I've said before is he's excellent off the bench, Christian Pulisic. One thing for Chelsea, and I know this pisses people off, but it's a strength. He's always been really good off the bench. And maybe that's just his role for the moment. He'll get if an injury happens or other competitions, he'll get opportunities to start. And if he plays well, he'll keep his place. Simple as. But the front three at the moment, to me, looks like it should be what it was yesterday. Certainly for the big games, Mason Mount, Raheem Sterling's always going to start because of his work rate, tenacity, and sheer quality. He does miss chances, Sterling, and he does make wrong decisions. But the truth is, he's used to being involved in them so much from playing Man City. And he's just very, very good. I wanted to speak about Aubameyang a little bit, the number 9. He spoke about the curse of the number 9 shirt in a post-match interview with haters yesterday. And he says, look, he just laughed it off. He says, look, I love the number 9. I want it. Of course, he's played 3 games for Chelsea, and he's got 2 goals, 2 and 2. And you could argue the first game was that Salzburg game. Or under Chelsea under Potter, whatever. But that Salzburg game, he was still psychologically recovering from that attack. He was still in the mask, and it looks like he's settled now. He's friendly with everyone. He's talking about Reece James being the best right back in the world. He's right. And he just looks apt. I obviously I spoke about it yesterday. I joked about it, saying like some of you found it funny, so how I'm not emotionally prepared for a number 9 who just scores goals and is instinctive, and whether it's swivel turn finishes without looking at the goal, or whether it's just darting into the 6-yard box and tapping it with his left foot in because he knows where to be at the right time. It's just a number 9 who's literally doesn't have a confidence problem. And you could talk about Romelu Lukaku, you could talk about Timo Werner, you could talk about Alvaro Morata, Pickham. A confidence issue when they get a bad run of form. You can tell. I tweeted out yesterday in the game, Aubameyang's not in the game at all, but I wouldn't take him off because you can never bet against him doing an excellent finish. He did exactly that. I quoted the tweet after he scored and said, there we go. And it's you can't not have him in. He's 33, he's not young, but provided he's not, absolutely static, you start him, you play him, he's going to score goals. If the gaffer thinks he's good, Breuer will get his chance. He seems to come on every single game off the bench, so he's getting minutes. There's cumulative minutes there. He will start the odd game as soon as the FA Cup and Carabao Cup start. I mean, maybe not Carabao because we're playing Man City away, but as soon as we play some other teams, he'll get a chance. If he scores off the bench, if there's an injury to Aubameyang, you can imagine Breuer will start. I don't think Graham Potter sees Kai Havertz as a striker like Thomas Tuchel did. I think Potter probably saw what Kai Havertz did for Germany when he dropped a bit deeper, looked amazing against England. And I think he probably sees him as a sort of number 10 box midfield forward, if that makes sense, behind some strikers. And I think he's probably right to deploy him there. That makes the most sense. So in terms of conventional centre forwards, Chelsea up 2. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as the senior, and of course Armando Breuer as the younger guy, and he will get his chances as well. And like I said, injuries and rotation, it will be there. And the fact that he's being selected every game off the bench, as is Conor Gallagher. Those two are obviously, again, 2 more. I could have added, did Conor Gallagher come off the bench yesterday? Yeah, another academy product. Chelsea, Cobham all over the gap. They will both be utilised. Pulisic's quality, he will be given a chance, but if he wants to go, he will probably also have the opportunity to leave Chelsea, as will Hakim Ziyech. We'll have to see. But make no bones about him. There's absolutely no bias coming from Graham Potter. He wants to utilise quality. He's had meetings with absolutely everyone. It's fair game. So we'll see what happens there. Please do comment your thoughts down below on everything I've spoken about. Let's start up the conversation. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you back here very soon on Football Therapy. Peace.